To the election campaign, and the focus is now firmly on spending. The Treasurer and his Labor counterpart locked horns today in a televised debate. Ursula Hager joins us from the city. So, Ursula, who won?
Well, Hugh, neither side managed to land the killer blow today. The coalition had started the week on the back foot after being caught out fudging the figures in its attack over Labor's spending, but they ended up back in the black after forcing Labor into an embarrassing retreat over its restoration of the school kids bonus, something it had been campaigning on for 2 years. The real Malcolm Turnbull forced to dodge his fake alter ego on the campaign trail. Portrayed as a fat cat, while his treasurer was in Canberra, arguing the cupboard's bare.
You're always spending too much. Well, no, Labor always spends too much.
Scott Morrison engaged in a debate with his counterpart, defending the government's company tax cuts.
Now, the Prime Minister said the other day, I think it was 2 days ago, he said it's fully funded because it's in the budget. Well, that's a very novel accounting practice. Now, frankly, if I tried that, I'd have to hand in my badge.
You say that the company tax cuts are unfunded, but you've claimed all the funding to then go and make a whole range of promises.
And attacking Labor over its backflip on renewing the school kids bonus.
Are you going to write back to everybody who signed that petition on the school kids bonus and say, I'm sorry, no, we've decided to welch on that?
The opposition leader was earlier left scratching his head over the same issue.
The decisions are triggered by government's bad budget, tripling the deficit.
But he twice refused to say whether the shadow cabinet knew in advance about the decision.
We have spending at the level of the global financial crisis that we saw, except there is no global financial crisis, there's only a Morrison financial crisis.
The only thing we know is that he slips and slides. You can't be sure of what he's going to do. It's chaos. Chaos on spending.
With Labor ending the week on the back foot over its spending promises, this will be the area Malcolm Turnbull seeks to capitalise on when both leaders come head-to-head in a debate this Sunday. Until then, they'll be sharpening their lines.
So this will grow to 4 metres.
Yeah. Well, if you let it.
Then I'll need some journalists to hold it.
To get the biggest bite. Now, Hugh, you can expect to see a negative advertising blitz as well as some big spending promises from both parties over the next couple of weeks. June the 14th is when pre-poll voting opens, and with a huge proportion of Australians, about 40% expected to pre-poll or postal votes, we will see both sides of politics roll out their big spending hits as well as their big hits on each other to try and capture those early voters.
OK, Ursula Hager, thank you.
Well, meantime, Donald Trump became a feature of our election campaign today when Bill Shorten described him as barking mad, which will make things rather interesting and awkward if they both win office. Catalina Flores explains.
A victorious Donald Trump gets one step closer to being the most powerful man in the world.
I was coming out of my building this morning, and there was a big news flash that Donald Trump had won the nomination.
His campaign has been marred by controversy and violent protests, but the outspoken New York billionaire has now gathered enough support to become the Republican presidential candidate. The news rippling across the globe to Japan, where President Barack Obama was meeting world leaders.
They're rattled by it, and for good reason.
If they're rattled in a friendly way, we're going to have great relationships with these countries.
But if Australia is led by Labor's Bill Shorten, it could make for an awkward first encounter.
Whatever they bowl up, we'll work with. Let me be really clear. But I got in trouble on the campaign trail for saying what I think. I think Donald Trump's views are just barking mad.
The Prime Minister called the description ill-judged, offensive and contrary to our national interest.
Or those who seek to be Prime Minister, Mr Shorten, for example, should be very careful about the comments they make about American politics.
The opposition leader refused to repeat his language later in the morning.
I think he's got very erratic views.
But defended his comments using a former Prime Minister as cover.
John Howard has the same views I do about Donald Trump, and we will maintain the American alliance no matter what.
Catalina Flores.